Okay, I just want to make sure we're recording. Okay, I'll call our meeting to order. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission, September 21st. We have these two ladies in the audience. Thank you.
I'm filming.
Okay, alrighty. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our July 20th meeting. Reading them over, I was like, wow, that seems like a really long time ago. And so much has happened since then, even though we did not have a meeting in August. There was an awful lot of activity going on. But let's go back to the minutes and remember we're reporting on what things were as we knew from them. So I will take any questions, comments, clarifications on the minutes. Kathy?
At the end of, I think, the section about discussion of the organic field maintenance at Highland Farm, I just wanted to add after the last sort of paragraph, the one thing you suggested, Lori, was that we consider, adding more budget to get more support for organic.
So are you at the bottom of page 3? Okay.
Yes. So I had just one more sentence saying this board suggested that this could be a budget topic with the concerns about stuff.
This could be a budget topic. Got it. Okay. Other? I noticed I had a couple of typos on page 6. Sarah, your name, you became Miss Denmark.
Woo! Where's your Oh, that's her all the time.
So I'll give you my and then 2 paragraphs below that, it says memorializing their father, such as citing the proposed gazebo. I think citing would be with a C in that case.
Yes.
And other?
On that same page, I think we also asked that we reach out to the family there too.
The same page 6?
Page 6.
Okay.
Just at the end that we agreed that we should reach out to the family to get their thoughts.
So after it says Ms. Ford concluded?
Yeah.
Okay. It was that members of the commission reach out to the family for their thoughts. Others?
Very thorough.
Yes, very thorough.
Yeah, I thought they were really well done. I just want to mention that. Then on page 5, thanks for sharing. So under option 3, second paragraph, when I met with Neil, Kara also joined. And Mary Louise, I don't think you were at that meeting.
Right there.
So we should switch out Miss Morgan. Or Kara, because Kara was
I'm
there.
trying to find the exact.
Okay, it's on page 3, second paragraph.
There it is.
Ordering.
Ms. Morgan. So it's this.
And one thing I want to correct that's actually concerning is I misspoke and said that, I think we were talking about goals. And I said Monk's Head was a good deterrent. And Monk's Head is really dangerous.
Yeah, you noticed that.
Plant.
Toxic.
It's horrible. So that was put in. But it's beautiful. But that was put in, but that's not what I meant. I actually meant a different plan. I can't think of the name, but just
what did
as
you
a-
say?
as a- I didn't say that.
Okay.
But it's really wrong.
Because,
So,
yeah,
I know there's nothing we can do.
corrected you.
But I know she did, but I just would hate.
Would you like it deleted from the record?
Yes, I would love it deleted from the.
Okay, again, give me the page number.
It is, let's see, when we were talking about the garden, sorry, that's
It was at the end.
It was at the end.
It's under new business. somewhere.
Yes, okay. Poisonous budget, which was the second most poisonous planet.
I know,
Still.
during it,
I
let's
was
put that as a word.
Yeah.
No, it's poisonous.
Just
I did get a giggle out of that one.
take it out. Take it out.
Okay.
It's just crazy.
Almost should not use pesticides and poisons that are going to be in conflict, and just take out the she suggested. Just
Yeah.
Kill that.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, castor oil is a good deterrent.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, other comments? Okay, then we can take a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Susan? And Amy second, all in favor? I am assuming that Tamara is going to watch the video and do the minutes. So
Yes.
I don't have to scroll down copious notes on the votes. Okay, cool. Do you want to take my copy with the scribbles?
Sure, you want it?
Okay. Just because there were, I think when you stepped out, there were just a couple of typos and stuff.
Perfect. Thank you.
Would you let her know that she's doing a great job?
I will let her know.
Really
I'll send
good.
minutes.
Yeah.
Very, very good minutes. Okay. Cool. Okay. Do we have any public comment this time? All right, Amy, then I'm going to turn it over to you for the update on the Cherry Lawn gazebo, the progress that you've made over the summer.
All right, so I'll sort of give the update and you want to do the numbers? Okay, sounds good. So after our meeting, we decided that Mary Louise and I would reach out as the representatives of the Cherry Lawn Park Committee on this commission. So we scheduled a Zoom with Dorothy Pearson, who is the family representative of this wonderful family who wanted to donate money. You guys all know what we're talking about. So we had a Zoom call, and we initially started the call and asked her how she was feeling about her gift and kind of the process. She, at that time, was really pretty wedded, as Pam had indicated, to the design that she and Pam had agreed on, that Pam had presented to us. But she was open to our presentation it was basically the presentation that we had given to all of you, and we had kind of adapted it for the family. So we showed her the presentation, and there were some points that she found of interest and importance. And at the end of the presentation, we had a nice conversation about those her thoughts, and she said that she would go back to the family, that she understood our perspective, that we didn't want to just knock down the existing gazebo and replace it with a new structure. And then she was going to go back to her family and talk to them about the donation and the new proposal, which is specifically to restore and preserve the existing gazebo. So she also indicated that she was involved in a bunch of family matters, she had some vacation coming up, so she wasn't going to be able to get back to us too quickly. So I followed up with her about 3 weeks ago, roughly 3 weeks ago. And she said that she had connected with her family and that the family understood our position on the existing gazebo, and that they were still going to donate money to us, but it wasn't going to be as much as they had initially proposed. So they were going to give us now $20,000 instead of the original gift. And Mary Louise will go through the numbers with you. So we thanked her, and Mary Louise and I spoke about it, and we felt like We understood her position. We talked to her, actually before we hung up, we talked to her a little bit about her frustration with the process. She had been going through this for about a year. And so she expressed that the end of the process wasn't as terrific as she had hoped it was going to be, but she was satisfied and the family was satisfied and understood why the commission has decided to go in this direction. And she was supportive of that insofar as they're going to continue to make a donation. So all in all, Mary Louise and I felt pretty good about the outcome, particularly given the fact that she was very ready. I mean,
Yeah.
she was kind of a no at the start of our discussion.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
And were it not for the fact that Amy spent an inordinate amount of time redoing the entire presentation, which you all saw, she really kind of thought it through as to what Dorothy would spark to, and we kind of moved things around, and that I think is really what turned it to a positive position, particularly mentioning Girl Scouts and their involvement and so on and so on. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Amy really brought her A game in terms of taking what she had done for us and customizing it really to a sales presentation.
that's correct.
So nice.
Specific to the family, and I think that's so.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for saying that. I think we love the gazebo, and I think that she loves Cherry Lanka and has wonderful memories. And I think that there was I didn't really have to, it wasn't really a sales presentation, although I appreciate you saying that. It was more of this is our position on a park, which we both love, and can we figure out how to make this happen so that you can memorialize your dad in a wonderful way. And so, so she embraced that, and the family has as well. So now we get down to kind of the practicalities of the next steps. One thing I should mention though is that I'm kind of frustrated that we're at this stage, because I do think that the actual structure should have been maintained, and we shouldn't have to be in this position. So, and I know that that's a big emphasis for the commission, and so I applaud that effort on our behalf. We can't let things get this far down.
And particularly since we had approved the $15,000 to redo the roof, and then nothing happened. And so a week ago, I met with Sean Shea, who is a well-respected, well-known builder in town. I pulled him away from the pickleball court of the game, and he went over to the gazebo with me, and he went all over it. And he basically said what had to be addressed immediately if we wanted to save this was the roof. And it did not have to be tied in with painting it or anything else, but the roof had to be fixed immediately. And he looked at the rafters, and even though the shingles are nailed to the rafters are in good shape. There are actual holes in the roof, letting in, the weather and everything else, which is not helping the floor immediately under the roof. But he felt that the floor was also okay. And I knew you were concerned with that. He also said the trim which ran around the top, underneath the eave or underneath the roof, that was solid. The main posts were solid. There's one that may need a little bit of work. The floor was okay. What needed to be replaced, the ramp is, forget it, it's done, and the railing. There are a few dowels that are missing and need to be replaced. The seating area needs to be sanded and stained. So he said, I will have my roofer, the one I use, come over and take a look at it and see if he can give you a price. So he came over and he emailed me this morning early, And he said it could be done for $15,000. So we got that done. Pam was good enough to get the structure power washed this summer, so that piece is done. So we got the roof done. We have to work on the ramp, and we'll eventually have to get painted. He also said it should be painted every 2 years. Absolutely, it had to be repainted every 2 years.
Do we have to bid out the roof though?
Pardon?
We have to bid out the roof, right? It's a different,
It's over 10,000.
right?
Yep.
So,
So how much would all of that cost us? Is it more than the 20,000 that they donated to fix that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, that's why I'm asking.
I mean, we're really talking about replacing the ramp and the railing that goes with the ramp. Replacing a few dowels. There aren't more than about 5 of them that are in really serious trouble. The rest are fine. And then it needs to get painted. And Pam also indicated that Park and Rec would paint the structure. So that saves us a lot of money.
The only issue that's in any way concerning is, and we're not really concerned, but there are 1 or 2 floorboards in the main circular part of the gazebo.
He said one board.
That's what I thought, it's only really one.
One board. And he said when you pull that up, you'll be able to evaluate the rest of the.
Okay, so Mary Louise is just, so we don't know what's underneath. We think we do because because the gazebo is on a little bit of a slope. You can kind of take a look under it as best you can. We haven't lifted up that floorboard to see if anything's wrong underneath. That's the only part we don't really feel comfortable.
But it seems
pretty fine. And we've had, 2 architects and a builder out there, and they're all saying so. So, yeah.
So
Thank you for doing that.
that's where we are. So we should try to do this as quickly as possible so that poor thing doesn't have to go through another winter with snow and everything.
And what, did he stay with the cedar shakes that?
Oh, he did say
right.
cedar shakes,
And
yes.
they're yellows.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got that information. So Jim, do you then go out to bid or what happens?
Well, I think, I don't know if Pam has got other estimates for the totality of the work. I mean, that would probably make the most sense to have one person do all the work. And, but, if they're saying that the roof doesn't, think it's going to last the winter. Is that?
No, he didn't say that, but he said the longer you wait, the
Right.
worse everything gets.
But it's got holes in it, it sounds
It
like.
has
Right,
bad-
it's on by holes.
real holes.
Then I don't know if she's got other estimates for the roof. I mean, that'd be something I have to ask her.
He did say the rest of the work did not have to be done at the same time.
Okay.
Most people just do the roof.
Okay. Yeah.
Separate.
And we have money in the budget for that, so we don't have to worry about the donation.
That would make the most
At
sense.
this-
then.
But if we can
If we can do
pull it all
at
together,
once.
get the donation,
Yeah, you're all
my
set.
husband's one of those families that's time kills deals. So, the longer we wait to go back to the money people and say, okay, we're ready for your money now.
Absolutely.
Whatever, so I think if we can get the totality of what we need to be done and go through the process of accepting the gift, but to go through the process of accepting the gift, we have to go, we will formally vote on it, we have to go to the selectmen, probably the Board of Finance, it's gotta go to the RTM, there's a lot of steps we need to go through which take time. We wanna get on that because, as you said, the family expressed that this has been taking a while, and I'd hate to, have it go months and months and months because time kills deals. So,
Are they expecting anything back from us other than?
So that's a good question. We spoke about maybe a plaque. We spoke about maybe a poem around the quotation around the top. All in the presentation that we made to her and the discussion that we had with her, and she was enthusiastic about those ideas. In the next conversation, she understood that the donation had diminished. And so she didn't really bring up those things so much, and she recognized that it was now going to be more of a scaled-back project, likely, and the component of the $15,000 was going to be a very important component. So to answer your question, she didn't bring it up. I do think we should go back and have a conversation with her about that, and just see where we are. And I would like your thoughts on what you're comfortable doing. I do think there's also a committee somehow that handles certain gifts and how there's signage associated with it, and
It's the monuments and
Yeah.
ceremonies, and from what I understand from Pam, whether they need to approve a plaque or not depends on what the proposed plaque will say. Because if it's a specific in memoriam, they do, depending on other language, maybe not, so we'll need to button that down. I think Pam, and I don't know if she did it before she left, was gonna reach out, that firm you were mentioning before we got going, they quote something,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you spit the name on
Yeah,
there to go.
yeah.
It's some pre-approved at the state level vendor who can come and quote jobs, and they bring in all this stuff, so though she did say they tend to be a little bit more expensive, but I think she was going to do that as well.
Okay, so is everybody, is everybody good with us pursuing, doing that with her? Okay,
Yes.
okay, good. So we'll follow that up, and I'll let Pam follow up with the monuments group, but we'll follow up with Dory.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll want to do is, when Pam gets back, is really hone in on how we're going to get quotes to complete everything we believe needs to be done to really bring the gazebo completely back up to snuff. That will help us conclude if the money we have between the budgeted money and the donation can complete the project, which it sounds like we can be cautiously optimistic that it will. And at that point, we would have the information we need to go through the process of accepting the gift. Because there are some, as I mentioned, hurdles that, and the RTM doesn't, we need every month, not even, every couple of months, so.
More or less, but then you get, they have, in November, there's an election, and you go through various types
Right.
of meetings, and then you got the state of the town, so you're into January.
Right.
If you don't do it lickety split.
Right.
So what's Mary Louise and my involvement at this point? Do we I'm gonna follow up with her about the plaque. Can I just kind of assume that Pam is now going to take this project over
Well, we
now?
will.
Or do I need to set up a meeting with Pam to have a conversation?
It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt to really clarify next steps and set some time. I'd like to set some timelines on this.
All right, so I will set up a meeting for us to do
I
that.
think it would be good. Just because it's been out there for a while, I think we want to help hold ourselves to deadlines at this point so that we can move through crisply, maybe back into with the guidance of Adele and her committee, when the most likely meeting, if you're saying, we probably can't get into the January meeting, I'm making it up, then back into, okay, what else do we have to do to get there, and therefore set timelines. So we want to get to the RTM in January. By when do we have to be to the Board of Finance? By when do we have to be to the Selectmen, et cetera, and back into those timelines so that we know when we need the information, I think would be good.
But could we not go ahead with the roof, since we've already got the 15,000 approved?
Yeah, why not? But doesn't she have to go out to bid?
Not necessarily. If you can get, there's some state bid list, if you can find a contractor that's on that list that could do the work, then you might not have to. But that's up to, I don't know where she is with that. So maybe she's already reached out to some places to do that. That would probably be the first strategy. You have a shorter window with, you're in September, you probably want to put a roof on, and you're putting a roof on in January, so probably now is the time to do it.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking for the RTM, approved funding in January, then yeah, you're looking to probably bid out the project possibly, and then be doing that work in the spring for the other portions of it.
Okay. She's back on Monday, right?
Yeah, and we have the park tour on Sunday, should be there.
Great.
Okay.
That will tie this up and go on.
Lori, just what I would say is, fantastic work. I would just make sure she knows all of us were in complete favor of what they've done. I want to make sure, hey, set expectations. It may take a while to get all this done. Hopefully we can get the roof done first, but the last thing we do is want them to not think we're appreciative. And, it is town government. It does take a little while to get things done.
Right.
But thank you so much, and Denise as well. I think you guys are doing a great job. But let her know if this is unanimous, but we want to move forward. Yeah.
Sometimes there's business done at the state of the town in December. So there's a possibility.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's just, we'll work to get those timeframes buttoned down and kind of work our way.
Got it. Oh, yeah. We'll have a
Say
conversation.
sort of everything with the check in hand as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Are we on the gazebo?
Great job, yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Well, we did feel good about saving something that's economic and sustainable and all kinds of things.
All right, next up is planning for our Fall Parks Tour, which is this Sunday. And I'm gonna get the notice posted at the town clerk's office tomorrow, but I wanted to button up our actual agenda. Kind of came together quickly, but we definitely talked about having it earlier in the fall to give us more time to collate and ponder our takeaways to help inform the budget process. Last year, I think our tour was closer to the end of October, and it was a little bit of a scramble in terms of the town budgeting process. I don't know, have you guys started already or not?
Budgeting?
Yeah.
We've met to go over capital items, but not really.
Yeah, so they're already into it. So first of all, should we settle on a time? I realize it's a Sunday morning, and if you all are real partiers on Saturday night, maybe you don't want to do it at 8:30. So
I thought you said 9 o'clock.
I suggested that 9 o'clock might be appropriate, but I wanted to get everybody's concurrence.
Sounds good.
9 o'clock works for people. Okay, I just wanted to be sure. I think some years we've done 8, but I think that's a little bit earlier on Sunday morning.
And then the end's at 12:30.
We try to keep it
There's some-
noonish.
I have some relatives coming in.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we'll try to keep it to 12, and if you have to peel out,
Okay.
peel out, but,
Where do you want to start?
well, that's what I want to talk about is which parts we really want to hit this year. Certainly we've got a lot of projects going on, so we want to use an opportunity to, walk those, or, sometimes we try to vary where we go from year to year. I'm really completely open, I want to hear from all of you. Usually we do at most 5 parks is what we found in a 3 to 3.5 hour time frame that we can reasonably cover between the driving time and all of that.
Well, which parts do you think have had them? I know Cherry Lawn has had a lot of activity.
Yeah.
So I think I just think we should put that on. I'd like to have people sitting in base, the world invasive, planting some trees, take a look at the gazebo. I think there's a playground updating going, so that's probably a good one.
I think McGuan, because of the playground,
Yeah.
that is so eminent, we're gonna try and do a new one this spring. It'd be a good budget to put on as well. Do we recommend Woodland, because I live next to it, and I think it's kind of forgotten about times.
We did do Woodland last year.
We
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
They're doing a great job. We should talk
About the parking, we just talked about the parking.
Right, parking, and then they're gonna put out the budget, well, that's put out the budget, so.
Yeah.
We need better signage, and that never changes.
I don't mind going to Woodland, but I would love to see, it seems like we have the most capital projects against Cherry Lawn, there's the Weed Beach project and Pear Tree. And so, at least for me, I would suggest maybe we start with those 3 because they're the most dollars and projects, and then if we have time, hit Woodland and McGuan.
Okay.
Do we have a playground plan for McGuan yet? So has it changed since
We're
last year?
getting there.
Yeah, we actually have 3 proposals that are coming in. What we're running into is that our budget is, I'm going to go over it, I should, maybe I should talk about it then, but we have, we're running into running out of budget constraints because of, we have 175,000 from McGuan, but we have to totally work on that servicing. It's very critical because of the accessibility, and it quite honestly takes up almost half the budget. And so it doesn't leave a lot of room in terms of equipment, and that's a problem. So we went back to the vendors and said, hey, this is our number, and so they're going to get us final budgets and plans by the end of this month, and then we're going to meet as a committee. So about 3, hopefully, good plans that fit our budget to go forward. But that should be at the next meeting. We'll have something for you guys then. But I'll talk about it more.
Yeah, and costs have increased so much.
Yeah, it's crazy. But we'll go into more detail during the playground piece, but it is competitive. So it would be fine to definitely need to go there for this meeting on Sunday.
I mean, usually what I've done in the past is try to sort of make a circular route around town, just most efficient, but we don't have to because, you know, it's not like any of the parks are like so far away.
Why don't we do then, we could do Cherry Lawn.
Start in Cherry.
Weed, Pear Tree, that would be 4. If we start at
Wait,
9.
so Cherry,
Cherry,
Oh, I see.
McGuan.
wait, start over here, I numbered wrong. Okay, so Cherry,
So we do Cherry Lawn, McGuan, Weed, Pear Tree. That probably takes our 4 hours. And then if we have more time, tack on Woodland.
and then
Or
the
Stellar, you know, so that's the other one.
We did a big one at, didn't we go Summits? We walked around Summits.
we've done some
We've
bigger
done
ones.
some
And it's
Summits.
also much more like stewarded,
Maintained.
well maintained.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not, that's like, I mean, Woodland really, you know, like you said. And we didn't even go into Woodland last time, only the parking lot, so we kind of go with a real visit.
We need more signage. I'm tired of telling everyone to put their dog on the
So meet at Cherry at 9, or, you know, try to get there like 8:45, but, you know, so ideally we're ready to move them out at 9 o'clock. So Cherry, McGuan, Weed, Pear Tree, and then finish up at Woodland. Okay. So that works for everybody?
Yeah.
We're all good? Okay.
I would just like to say, if we have time at Weed, I'd like to walk through and at least have commission and committee members see the proposed pathway. I think that, no, we're okay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'd like to make sure we build out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can really walk it through and say this is, you know,
Yep.
yeah, because we got little pictures we sent you, but.
Yep.
It might be challenging, it's pretty overgrown, but
Where our
we'll play.
hey, we're gonna get nice weather for the first time on all these walks,
Yeah.
so
Be nice
What's the
and
weather on Sunday?
it looks nice.
decent
Yeah.
tomorrow's day.
Yeah, so I mean, to your point, it's a big area, so we should spend a lot of time over in
Right.
that short-wing area.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, we're gonna be going forward, again, you know, to request money for these proposals, it's important that the whole commission really understands what's involved in what we're proposing.
Well, so to that end, since we already have one from McGuan, should we do Cherry Lawn, Weed, Pear Tree, and then hit McGuan? So we don't shortchange the things that are still coming down the pike?
That's fine, right?
What, you mean, going McGuan later, you mean, or?
Do later, just so long as we have time, so we don't shortchange. So if the McGuan funding's locked in, yes?
And it's gonna be a quickie, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know, I don't, sorry, that's not.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't think we're gonna spend a lot of time on it. So if you wanna put it at the end, that's fine. Or people could just go on their own. It's easy, I think.
No, why don't we do Cherry, Weed, Pear Tree, then up to McGuan, which, and then that scoops us up towards
Woodland.
Woodland.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There you go. Perfect.
And I think in other years, it seems like some people thought we would end at one time and other people stayed till the end. Should we make a hard stop just so that everybody has planning purposes? Or do we want to go until we're done with the parks, just so we all work towards the same thing?
It's up to you guys, I mean, I'm flexible for the whole day, so it's depending on how many people have hard stops or whatever.
I think it's good to have a hard stop because then we advance through.
I mean, usually what I've tried to do, and I'll do this in the morning, is try to set out about an allocation of how much time at each, and I kind of map it out and allow drive time and all of that, so that we can kind of keep our eye on watch and say, okay, folks, we gotta move it on, but sometimes it's very
Cats, Patty?
Can I, it's y'all's thing, but can I just make a suggestion to actually completely switch it and do Pear Tree and Weed Beach first? Because those are the big capital projects. The stuff at Cherry Lawn is done. Like anybody can drive by and see what's going on there, so it'd be nice to see that. But I mean, those are the things that y'all are gonna have to be voting on, that you'll wanna, you know, you've walked how much there is back there at Weed Beach, Meadow and Trail, right, Susan? So
Yeah.
it feels like those should be, Weed Beach and Pear Tree should be your first ones to focus on. Just my 2 cents, whatever works for y'all. And then end the other way.
Adele?
I have a question, actually, probably it's for Jim. Last year you went to Baker. And we were talking a lot about the swings. and then you got the ARPA money. Are you gonna put the swings up before you redesign the park? Because it looks like it's the park that's down the list. You don't have to answer me right now.
Right.
It's in the back of my mind that those swings, we went to the RTM for the money for the swings last year. And then that was before the ARPA.
I don't have the answer to you right now.
It's a good point. So what do we want to do? Do we want to start at weeds?
I'm good with doing beaches first, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, and then
We
we'll
always
report instead,
start
great.
at Cherry every time, and
That's true.
it takes up a lot, it does.
It does take up a lot.
Because it takes up a lot of time, and we get sucked in, and you're right,
Yeah,
we do.
good
And
point.
We've always started Cherry. I've never been to a parks tour without starting at Cherry Lane, so.
Okay, all right.
We'll
Hold on,
get started.
I'm re-scribbling. Okay, so we're gonna start at weed. Hey, it works for me. We're gonna start weed. Easy for me. Start at weed, then we go to pear tree, then we go to cherry,
Sure.
or do we want to go to McGuan and Woodland and end at cherry?
That makes more sense.
So McGuan third, and then Woodland, and finish at cherry?
Yeah, that way if anybody has to leave.
Okay, and then the rest can just see all the, 'cause there's a lot going on. Or has gone on. She's a lot of city, but a lot of it's.
So maybe someone can, down to leave early, swing by there and
Right.
just see themselves.
Okay, so weed, pear tree, McGuan, Woodland, cherry. Great. I've got a lot of, okay, so we're good on that. Cara, you were gonna update the form because, okay.
Yes, so just last year, we did a assessment form that was based off of the standards of care. I'm happy to use the same form. Susan's suggestion, which I think is a great one, is to make it online, which I can do through SurveyMonkey, so that way everybody will just fill it out online. And I guess my other suggestion was, if the form feels a little tedious, I was going to add something in front where people just comment on what they think our biggest priorities should be, or something, so we just know what we're driving towards, or what our priorities as a group are over the next year, if people are good with that.
I will say though, because last year you took how people rated things and we had bar charts.
Yeah,
When I went before the Board of Finance
yeah.
to sort of plead our budget case, it was nice to have.
We can still do that.
Dollars.
Yeah, I'll just
Okay.
do that through
But if people
SurveyMonkey.
don't fill out and only do verbal comments, then we don't really have. I was able to say, the commission rated, the quality of, the painting is this, or it kind of helped quantify where we thought the priorities were, and
Okay.
having nice little,
All right. So
having
we'll do this-
metrics.
We'll do the same one as last year, and
Yes.
then add a place for comments about
Yes.
priorities.
Yeah, finance
Okay.
people like metrics.
Okay.
They love metrics, so that was good. And then ideally what we can do is we also assigned out the rest of the parks, and then I think to like 2 people each to get to in the next, we'll set some maybe within the next month or something to do those ratings independently, so we're picking up, the other 7 locations to some extent in terms of what they need or don't need. I think, most of our capital seems to be focused on the ones that we're going to. But, we still at least want to make sure, we're walking through, Diller to make sure, we have the nice running, thing put in, and, is that holding up? Is there any attention needed? I don't want to not be looking at the rest of those as well.
Right. And so shall I also send them to Adele so that
Okay.
your group can also participate?
Yes.
Should we come with with a piece of paper in hand, pieces of
I
paper,
can bring,
or what are we gonna do?
I can bring printouts, but then just request everybody, I'll send you a link, and then everybody goes on to SurveyMonkey, and you can fill it out, transcribe it yourself,
Yes,
and that will make it.
that'd be good, because I
More
like to just
efficient.
take notes while I'm
Right, okay.
looking at them.
Yeah.
Super, thank you. I would like that.
Plus I take notes of the meeting itself, so.
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome. Okay, so I think that's what we needed to cover, is just, we'll go with the form. If you have it, I think I sent it out to you in an email, so you should have it, but I would really suggest that you reread our standards of care. if you haven't looked at them in a while, just refresh your memory on, you know, what we said we were looking for and wanted to accomplish, so that as you're going through the tour, you know, it's kind of top, you know, top of mind. And it does kind of translate to the way the form is laid out, but it's just a good thing to do. Okay, cool. All right, so we will see everybody Sunday morning at 9. We've had rainy years, we've had freezing cold years, we've had really hot years, so.
Last year was pouring, right?
Yeah, the other was pouring. One year, I remember, it was super cold, like gloves and mittens cold, so. Okay.
And I don't want to go home.
See, if we ended at the beach at noon, then we could just like hang out, but. All right, next on the agenda is the discussion and use of the beautification budget funds. We touched on this, we have 18,000 in the budget for the fiscal year that started July 1st and will end next June 30th. But as part of this budget planning process, of course, if we're going to be seeking additional funds for that to become an annual item, you know, we really have to have a plan. If you recall, we'd asked for, I think, 40,000, which we kind of just pulled out of the air. And town administrator came back and said, because they didn't have a specific, you know, planting plan, that we need 5,000 for trees, a pear tree, and we need, you know, 7,000 to do this or whatever. She just gave us some money to work with, but we really need to make sure that we, you know, expend that money in a thoughtful way. And then at this, you know, we're going to need to be thinking about then, you know, what we want to do for the next fiscal year and then what the costs are going to be. One thing that's come up, and we'll touch on this in a couple different topics as we go through the evening, is in addition to the actual, you know, planting, then you also have maintenance and money for, you know, watering and care of plants. I guess there were, you know, there were certainly plants that were put in a pear tree that were not, you know, maintained this summer. It was a very rough summer, we all know that. And, you know, less plants got a lot of TLC, watering, clipping, feeding, whatever. They really struggled. So I believe we probably have to use part of that money because I don't know that there's anywhere else to get it from, right?
I don't really know.
No, especially if we have to hire outside watering services. I mean, I know there's the folks, I don't know who they are, that go around town taking care of all the hanging baskets, but I assume they're getting paid. And
Well,
those-
yeah, so they're hired by the beautification
Right.
commission.
Right.
And so last time I checked with Tracy, she didn't think they had capacity,
Okay.
but I really think it's because it's a funding issue. If we can, you know, offer up a share in the budget for that, I think, you know, there is a conversation there.
Right.
I think she said, you know, they are very busy with the street ones, but as you see, you know, they maintain those fairly well, especially if such a
Still
dry
Mine
summer that we
are
had.
long gone.
I know, and so I think we, you know, I think she was open to having us speak with them about it if we're willing to pay for additional maintenance that they can do, because they're doing it anyway. It's
Right.
really the most efficient way, instead of
Yes.
hiring a different vendor or trying to. And we tried different creative ways this past summer, which did not pan out. So we should, I think I would make that a priority to work out an arrangement with that vendor who's already doing such a great job.
Great job in town, but I think, yeah, and we're gonna have to have some sense of, and I just have no idea what a service like that costs, so we're gonna need to understand that, because there's no point planting, whether part of this goes to, you know, annuals, so we just want more annuals at different parks and beaches, or whether we wanna put in more shrubs or whatever. But I think there's things, when I was over at Pear Tree last week, I noticed on either side of the shower that faces the south beach, there was this really ugly plant that I had to control myself to not just yank out.
It's like on the, in this
Yes,
little flower.
yeah, it was really bothering me. But I took a picture and sent it to our friend Laura, and I said, is this a weed that I got? And she came back and said, no, that it was, what did she say, was it ragweed, or, what did she say what it was? Goldenrod.
Oh, yeah, that's good stuff.
Oh, we love
That's
golden.
goldenrod.
and it's a pollinator, and
Yeah, we love
it's
that.
ugly. I'm sorry.
Well, if it's featured in a pot, then
It's
that-
not in a pot, it's coming out of the ground and it looks like a big ugly weed. So anyway, I
No, we
did not
love
yank it out,
Good, good.
but it really shouldn't be there. It really shouldn't. So these are things when we go around,
Yeah, we'll
let's,
exchange it for
we'll have to look-
milkweed.
let's think about, it just, I do not find it visually appealing. It's just my view. Cara's kind of nodding at me if you know exactly the spot I'm talking
No,
about.
actually, I'm a fan of these. Is it goldenrod or what? Goldenrod, yeah. So it doesn't bother me aesthetically, but I would love to see as much of the funds devoted to pear tree. I think it needs the most love, and I think we could get a lot done. So,
Do we have a deadline?
We would need to spend the money by June 30th. But I think we want to have a plan in place well before June 30th, because as we're asking for more money, I don't want to be in a position saying, well, we haven't even planned for using the money you already gave us.
So if we came up with, sort of what we understood better, how the cost to hire, the vendor to do some additional watering, just as an example, as an line item, we could use that to request more funding from the board.
For next year. Yeah, for next year.
So this year we have that 18,000
Yes.
before June.
Yes.
And has Pam put together a plan of what she wants to use the money for?
Not that I'm aware of.
I was under the impression that it was the commission's
Yeah.
decision as to
Those are
how-
decisions,
yeah.
okay.
And what parks we want to focus on, what types of things, where we feel we'll get the most impact in terms of, are there areas we feel need more shrubbery, whatever it is, do we want more annuals every year? Do we have to keep, the beaches and whatever, just, do we really want to have just,
So
nice
following
entrance
up-
statements and lots of pretty annuals, which then absolutely would have to be maintained just to have a lot more summer color.
And the other thing to factor in is all the areas where we're taking down the tree of
Heaven, yes, right, yes, right.
Which is not so heavenly.
Right.
We may want to do something there.
Yeah, and weed, that's gonna be a big, and we'll see it when we go to weed. I mean, those were really the only shade trees, and I did see a lot of people sitting under them. So it may be that
We use it over there.
we have to use it over there to get, and think about getting some shade into weeds, so.
So just to clarify the comment about the watering, can we use this beautification budget, say we're planting a bunch of trees at Cherry Lawn, right, and we've got a watering issue. Can we use this money to water those trees?
I believe so,
We've got a real need over there, as you know.
yeah.
And currently the idea is that volunteers will need to bring 5-gallon buckets every day to water each tree because we don't have a program.
Right.
So I think we should strongly consider using the
Doing
money
that.
that we have now toward that program, since we are planting trees and there are a lot in there to make sure that they survive and flourish.
How many were planted?
This weekend, I think we're planting
30.
30.
Yeah, and we're gonna go, I'm gonna ask to go into new business to just, to talk about the planting at Cherry Lawn this weekend, so I'll give more details, but, I would hope we wouldn't have to spend all the money on that, because I would like to
Do some
Yeah,
plantings,
understood.
we need to-
do some plantings,
think
but,
it's a
no,
really
I
important-
I completely agree.
Weren't there some other trees that were planted before the summer that I think Pam had some of the park supervisors try to help with?
Yeah, and that, my understanding is, I
At Cherry
didn't
Lawn.
know that he was gonna have to do that, and he was taking buckets of water from the pond and putting it in. It's just not a sustainable situation.
Our summer security guard was doing it, which
Yeah,
is really,
it's just,
It didn't work anywhere,
yeah, not.
I mean, they survived, and thank you to him, but it's not a long-term solution.
Yeah, it's really not for 30 trees.
Yeah.
I think he was just doing like a trouble.
It's not ongoing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once they are established.
Yeah, they
you're
should be
absolutely right.
one more
It's
year,
just a
maybe
stopgap.
tops. They'll have a good system. They've done really well.
Yeah, so I think we need to think about the parks priorities, we can tie this in with the tour, but I wanted to bring this up and make sure, again, we're really thinking about, because we really need to be working on this over the winter, so that, I don't know that we're gonna be in a position to do any planting in the fall, which is kind of the best planting season other
Yeah.
than cherry. But other, in terms of pear tree or weed, probably, I don't think we're gonna get our acts together fast enough. But we really need to know so that, we've got costs and budgets and whatever, and we're ready to go in the spring and really think, how much do we want to do by adding, bushes or trees, and how much are we interested in doing more beautification annuals to be adding, color and things to.
Well, then we need to get I think first we need to get a quote for the watering to see, so that we're covered for next summer, and then we know how much money that we have left.
Well, that
to
we
deal
only
with
have to cover till June 30th.
till June 30th.
Well, the big issue is this fall with those trees,
With
right?
the trees, right, so you probably could use up a chunk of that.
We could use,
Especially-
we would welcome
If it
that.
stays as dry as.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna need them for now, though. It's been raining and it dries cooler, and
It is
we don't
cooler.
water a lot in this fall. That's why you plant in the fall. The spring is iffy, it depends if it rains or not, but it's really the summer that we're really dealing with the hugest, drop off.
Or maybe we hire them and use up the money, like to hire them before June 30th to come have a contract in place, and then they perform the services, throughout the summer. So it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, we definitely want to get, I just have no even inkling of what something like that's going to cost. So I think that's one thing we really do.
So who does that, Pam?
Well, Janet,
Well,
if you've got a
Tracy Whitehead
contact.
is the commissioner on the beautification commission that deals with them, so I can reach out to her
Okay.
again and see if she can put me directly in touch with her.
That would be great. Okay, that'd be helpful.
And for trees, the best thing is to get something called a gator bag, and it's you fill it with water, and it drips the water
Right.
like in very slow drops over a long period of time, which is what helps establish the roots. So if we invest in some gator bags and we plant trees at cherry lawn this year, and then next year they go to weed, and then pear tree, we can keep using those gator bags.
The only issue about those bags
Yeah.
is, and we just spent a lot of time with the pollinator pathway people today, the gator bags are filled, they're designed to have a slow drip, right? And in order to do that, they have this material that,
You mean the gel?
the gel,
Yeah,
and
it's like a diaper.
it's not, it's a diaper, and it's not as organic as the pollinator pathway people would like. This is all new to me.
They like
The
deep
ones I
watering.
use, they like have it like that.
Yeah, that's
We can
different.
talk
There's a
about it
gator
separately.
bag, and then there's the donut that they put in
Yeah.
Highland Farms. You've seen those, Pam, that goes in.
Yeah.
And the pollinator pathway people really like it when it's deep watering,
Yeah.
because they want the water to go in and the roots to develop. So that's why they're not huge fans of these slow water systems. That's there. And this is better for natives and sometimes the trees.
Yeah.
But I've used the gator bags, and they're
I've used them
fine.
with great success.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for our needs, it might be the best solution, just because we want them to survive and do well. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with the gator bags personally for trees.
So it sounds like some beautification may morph into sustaining what we put into place, and then we'll see what we have left. And then we can think about in the spring whether we want, how we want to tackle it. Get rid of both.
Maybe that's weird because there's only one.
No, there's two, there's one on each side.
Oh.
They're tall, and obviously they struggle because of the drought, but we will look at
They
them on
could
the
be,
side.
they actually could be trimmed, and they'll grow from that height too. They don't have to be big,
Great, they'll come back.
single things. They just get a little bit.
I'm sorry, they just don't belong in that spot. They just,
It can be moved.
There's a plan.
Sorry to be slow on the uptake. So the trees that got planted from the pollinator pathway, is our responsibility to water them? Is that
Yes.
what-
They try to whenever they can. I mean, we did the ones at Town Hall for a while, but they're just two people in reality. So they get volunteers, and we were out there for a lot last summer to get these established. And then Public Works actually took on, during the worst part of the drought, they've been watering with, they have a big giant watering that they helped build. It was great. So it wasn't only the pollinator pathway people. So.
I should point out that Patty has offered to galvanize some volunteers to lug gallon jugs to water them, which is very generous.
Only because we did not know about this plan until we read about it in the paper. And if these were going in, I don't want to see them dead like what's happening over at Highland. So I will get some folks to water it for a short period of time. But to your point, which is what your question was, and what we talked about today, Amy and Lori, is we have to have a policy around donations and grants. Because when people donate things, whether it's through a donation or grant, we have to have a maintenance policy after that. We see the same thing when it happens at the Board of Ed, right? If they donate a field, then who's going to be taking care of that maintenance after that? So I really recommend that for your commission to put in a policy at some point going forward.
It's gotta be sustainable. And I don't think relying on volunteers is a sustainable solution. It just isn't. Especially, Cherry, the access to the water is not even remotely convenient.
Yeah.
That's an understatement. Okay, so we'll tie that into our thinking and discussion on the parks tour and the future budgeting. But Jen, if you could follow up on that, that would be
We'll have an answer before Sunday.
super helpful. Cool. Alrighty, so let's move into the report from the different working groups. We've touched on a few of these things already, but we'll get our official reports. So first on the agenda is playground, is that you, Susan?
Yep. We met in the beginning of the month to just kind of figure out, the timeline and also to actually hear from another playground vendor. We had 3 playground vendors come back to us with some ideas. Compan, Game Time, and Creative Recreation. Compan, we have some of those units actually at Cherry Lawn and also at Weed Beach. It's the colorful, kind of painted looking units. So she came and spoke to us. So far, we're getting some good designs, but I think we're getting to the point where things are costing more than, our vendors thought. And we always gave them the $175,000, but then some of them came up with over $2,000. Blowing the budget, and we can't go beyond that budget number. So we asked them all to go back, and we gave them till the end of this month to come back with something they could do for $175,000. To ease that budget-ish number, Pam had offered using Parks and Rec staff to remove the equipment. And because of when they can do things, it has to be done in, I think, late fall. Mm-hmm. And when a new playground wouldn't be up till May. And so, and that saves $20,000, which is a lot when your budget's $175,000. So I was talking to Jim before the meeting, and he said that Little League is kind of pretty much done from, kind of late November into mid-April. So there might be a few weeks, maybe even a month at most, when we don't have a playground, but it'll be in progress, hopefully. So Pam really wanted me to tell the commission so that if there's any, complaints, that, you kind of understand why we had to do it, to save at least $20,000 on the budget so that we can get more equipment for our playground. So right now, I think most of them have 2 units and a swing set. And it's really the surfacing is really the huge driver of the budget. So we're hoping that we can get everything done for $175,000, and I'm confident we will because we have to choose the vendor that will do that. So, but we do have some fun things and the playground committee has been awesome. Patty has been great keeping us with our minutes, and also, going to visit playgrounds. All of them are giving us terrific feedback. So we're very confident, don't you think, that we're headed in the right direction, and
good options.
I know, and the end users are really participating in the process, which is great, and they're so enthusiastic and so happy to get new equipment, and it's nice to get their viewpoints, because I know I haven't had children in playgrounds for just a few years, and so I think I'm confident by the next meeting we'll have something to show the commission, and hopefully it's something that we can go forward with and then place the order. These are all, I think these vendors are all like quick, what do you call them, quick bid people, which means that once we make our decision, it shouldn't be too hard to kind of get them through the process and get that moving, because we do really want to get this in by early spring. Because we all know that the surfacing is past its useful life and want to have a safe and some new equipment for the kids to play with, so.
Yeah, and one of the nicest things is that all three vendors came in with bids with handicap accessible items as well. So it will be a facility where, for everyone that can participate there, every type of child, which is nice.
One of our committee members has a child that has been really helpful, that has a child that uses all these accessible things. So he's been very good about giving us the feedback so that we're not missing the boat, about certain technique, equipment and stuff. I think Curtis he's been participating really well with us. So we're very grateful for that. So anyway, but that's basically it. And then after that, we'll focus on the next two playgrounds, Acre and Cherry Lawn. So.
Do you have a view on what order that will be?
I don't know, because we did do some stuff on Cherry Lawn already recently. I think they're going to be, those two are going to be concurrent, I think, a little bit. We have a big enough committee that we could probably, start, we could do both. We really wanted to fast track Baker because of the surfacing. But I think the other two pieces, sorry. Oh my God, my brain's gone. Yes, but hopefully.
I think there's an interest to have Baker a little ahead of Cherry Lawn, just because there's more of a need to fix it. Some of the equipment's a little older, a little bit sadder.
It's kind of meh.
It's not, and we have $150,000 there, and since the surfacing won't hopefully take up as much of the budget, I think we're going to try to be more creative there with maybe something that blends in more with the woods and the trees. But I think we could do both at the same time. I mean, I'd like to, but we'll see. But definitely trying to focus on McGuan and getting that out the door, and then
Did Federal Realty ever?
No, I think they were not interested.
No.
They said no, thank you. But you know what?
Maybe later.
Maybe some benches, maybe some tables.
Another climbing structure.
Another kind. I mean, we were definitely like trying to get as much as we could into that space, but it's fine. I think the designs are going to be great for the space, so it's going to be better than what we have now. So that's all that we need to focus on.
Can any of the pieces of equipment be reused, or just everything?
You see that? I talked to Pam about that. I mean, I think they're in decent shape. Her idea is to have the staff take it away, but they're not going to take it down in a way because they have to do it quickly. It's not going to be like, oh, let's unscrew this. You're probably going to use machines. They got to go quick. But if anybody knows about any, maybe any, I just don't know. It's going to take a lot of effort to take that thing apart because there are footings in the ground.
Right,
and it's just, it's pretty onerous for people to do that.
All right, so it's just going to go.
I asked her if there was an organization that did it. I Googled it to see if I could figure out anybody, but nothing I could see. But I'm going to still just try because it's still in usable shape, I believe. It's just not, something that,
I have an idea about maybe some organizations who may want it in Sanford, so.
Yeah,
I'll
let's do that. I mean, this is honestly the first place. I mean, I did Weed Beach, and we literally were dying. We chucked that stuff out.
Oh, that
because it was terrible. I almost hurt myself.
Sometimes they won't take it because it's so old, so.
Yeah.
So they might not take it.
Yeah, because of liability
issues,
yeah.
but we could try.
I thought it was worth a try if there was anybody that was interested, but it will be harder for our staff to take it out in a way that would
preserve it.
Preserve it.
All right,
So I wasn't pushing it, especially since we're asking the staff that are pretty they're pretty busy already.
Would it be willing to, or would we be able to talk to Stanford or Norwalk Parks and Rec and see if they'd be willing to come in and help if they need any of the equipment?
We take it out.
Yeah.
They have the equipment. It's just
I
mean
understand.
like to take it out.
To help us, in terms of if there's a donation to potentially be made, then I don't know if Stanford or Norwalk is in any way interested.
Yeah, I was thinking of Pacific House, which is the one in Soldier.
Yeah, maybe something like that. If you want to reach out to them and then we'll talk about more details. I mean, I'd love to do it, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah, we can always ask. We can always ask if other communities have, an interest in the equipment.
Yeah.
Then you got to come take it.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, that they would have to kind of take it, right?
Yeah, and then maybe we could extend our season a little longer. It depends on what's going on. Because we're at this window with the staff now that they can only do it in late fall. But if someone's willing to take it early spring, we might be able to cut a deal. But I don't know. There'd be more.
We'd have to know.
We'd have to know sooner. But feel free. I'll help you if you need. I like that idea.
I know some people who do that.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Okay. So next thing we should have one nice, beautiful new playground.
That'd be nice, yeah.
Invasives, Mary Louise?
Yes. Well, we have made a big start on going after the invasives. We've also learned a lot. Everyone has. We were very fortunate in finding Charles, who did an outstanding job over at Cherry Lawn. We had identified 3 sections that we wanted to go after, and he addressed A and most of B, and we know what has to happen going forward. But if you go over to Cherry Lawn and you walk along near where the pond is, you'll see a major change. And then moving off to your left, heading towards the tennis courts, you will see another major change moving into that whole area that was just totally overgrown. This is a huge project, but I think we all have a much better idea as to what it's going to cost, what we need to ask for going forward, and we have lots of pictures that we can use before, after, and so on, showing Board of Finance what we were able to accomplish and so on. One change is I needed to change the time of the meeting going forward, and I know Pam is working on this, said I would meet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, but instead of at 4:30, we do it at 6:30 or 7:30, whatever works for everybody. So she hadn't quite gotten an answer going forward. So that's where we are.
So, but it was interesting seeing it because what they did is some of the vines are literally,
They're huge.
They're huge. They're this big around. They were all over the tree, so they cut them back, but they don't actually yank them down because it will damage the trees. So what's happening is a lot of the leaves are dying away. So it wasn't like instantly you saw this beautiful tree you couldn't see before it, but Charles has assured us over the winter that a lot of that will die back, and that it really in the spring we're going to get the real full impact
Benefit,
and benefit of seeing. But when we were over there today, there was that one little stand of like 3 trees that you could see the vines are dying back, and it's almost you could see them like, like I can breathe again, just because all of these vines and everything are dying away. So,
and then, and in addition to identifying all the trees in heaven that are kind of everywhere, in every park, and they're host to the spotted lanternfly, which you've all heard a lot about, I think, this summer. It's been featured just about everywhere. And it seems the thing is really prevalent, and it destroys native trees, the maples, the oaks, everything. So we've got to get rid of those.
Charles, I think, was going to take care of the one in Cherry. Has he done that yet? You sure?
I don't think so. No. It's tricky because they do grow up from their roots. So, and I think the plan is just to chop it down. So Sandy has a lot of thoughts about this.
All right, but I thought Pam had given Charles, because Charles said he could take care of it before he finished up, and I thought she gave him a go-ahead to do that. I thought it was done now, so.
I don't think so. I don't think
I was
the
wondering
tree
if it was.
Honey, has it come down yet? Do you know? It
No,
hasn't.
you
or
don't know, or no, it hasn't?
No, it has not.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
No, I
There
think
was
it's still there.
there was a discussion of whether we want to pay, you use our guys and then we don't have to pay them to do
Yeah,
it
right.
versus Charles, but it's big, it's very big, and I think Sandy
understand that.
felt like it was too much for them to do.
For
and so-
Sandy?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I thought when we walked the project with Charles
the very last
that
one.
day, that at the end of that meeting, Pam had authorized Charles to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, but he's just finishing up. I mean, he was there the other day. They were just doing
Okay.
some more work. And then our wonderful Parks and Rec guys cleared 7 loads of the stuff that was down on the ground. Because they pulled out all the invasives, Charles
Right.
and Stony Brook, and then they cleared out a lot, but there was still some down below that they were gonna kind of mulch up, and then our guys hauled out. They told us today 7 loads. So, great job.
So it sounds like for our budget next year, we can use some of this experience to figure out what we need for our staffing as well as extra help.
Yes.
to really go after the rest of the invasives right in our property.
And this is just one part. I mean, we've got more
What?
than.
Or find another segment we can go after.
Well, as we move forward, we have to start killing the other parks. You know, Weed Beach is on my radar, and Joanne and Gabriel and I are gonna get together.
Down there.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
find a time when we can walk it together, and I'll have her help me identify.
And I also found one of those tree heads at the dump, a very large tree.
Well, there's some on that vacant property in Nearwater Lane I noticed too. So, and that's private property. But once you realize what they look, they get those like orange flowers in the summer. Once you realize what they look like, you're like, oh my gosh, they're all over the place.
There are a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, you always see it when we go this weekend, but you have to have vision, because when you look at it now, you see a lot of the dying material and stuff, so you don't get the
Which
full.
property on Nearwater Lane? Brenda's Meadow? The one that?
No, it's just privately owned property where there used to be a house.
Oh, not the land trust property?
No.
Oh.
Thank you for asking.
But, yeah, it was really remarkable seeing the size of some of those vines. It is mind-blowing what was there. And I know Laura Mosier's been over, and she was able to identify a bunch of native bushes and stuff that, you know, we didn't know were there, and she was like, oh my God, these guys are gonna be so happy in the spring, and but there's some kind of roses or whatever, she's just all sorts of stuff she said, will, you know, really.
We've gained a lot of space down there.
Yeah, we
And
gained
you
a lot
can
of
see
space,
the
yeah.
view if you're standing down by the pond, and then you're looking over to where the playground is, like through past that tree and up. And we were saying today, that's a great place to put some benches on both sides to be sitting. It's really becoming quite lovely. I mean, and as you said, have the vision down the line, but we have before and after pictures from over the 6 months, and it's astounding what the work they've done.
That being said, the pond does not look well. The pond is filled with algae on the
Yes.
top, and it's not great.
And we'll talk about that on the tour and some ideas we have here for that. Okay. Excellent.
Fair trade. So relatively brief update. So as everybody knows, we did a survey of residents to understand priorities and preferences down at Pear Tree. And it was a big success. It was open to all residents the first 2 weeks in August. We publicized it through email, social media, posters at the beach, town hall, senior center, and so forth. As a result of that, we had 2,800 or just over 2,800 responses across a pretty wide demographic and usage profile. So I think we we got what we wanted to out of it. We just got today, a little delayed because somebody from Noble House had a wedding or got married. So we just got the top line results, and we'll be sharing them with the working group tomorrow, and look forward to hopefully sharing them with this group in October.
But we have lots and lots. What was really nice is that in addition to people answering the questions where we had the scale from, you know, not satisfied to very satisfied, in the places that we provide the opportunity to provide comments, we got lots and lots and lots of comments, like hundreds of pages of comments. So we have to parse through all of that. So there's a lot to wade through.
A lot to wade through, but I think we purposefully had a number of open-ended questions to make sure that we were catching everything that people wanted to share, as opposed to just asking for a yes/no question and people wanting to talk about something else. So I think the whole combination feels like we have a really good portal into what people in town think about the beach. So
Was Noble House able to parse out within the open-ended comments sort of the priorities?
So there's no, when we did the master plan, nobody went through and categorized them. There weren't as many comments. So the downside of the quantity is that we have a lot to go through. And I went through, for example, the 800 comments from the concession to categorize them myself. It's not something that I think is going to work super well with AI, because the way the comments are written,
So different.
they're so, like a couple words will totally change the meaning, and so we can certainly run a test if there's a way to do it, but I think you need to read through them. But I think for people who spend the time, and I know some people, like I think Cheryl said, she looked through all of them. Take a glass of wine, you just skim through them, and you get, if you look at it a little bit like an impressionist painting, it's pretty clear what people are saying and what they're not saying, and you'll see a lot of the same comments come through. But there certainly is a lot of richness, and for things, for example, in accessibility is something that we've wanted to improve. And so for people who have accessibility challenges and wrote in specific suggestions, that's, I think, a great opportunity for us. That was a long way of saying, we don't have yet a technology that will allow us to easily categorize them, but I think they're still super useful.
Analyzed one by one and categorized, or bucketed.
Yes, or I think somebody can read through and say, okay, I generally get the gist of what people are saying here. I don't know that we need to spend the time categorizing all of this, because, for example, on one of them, it's why people go to Pear Tree. You're going to get 100 comments saying, natural beauty, it's peaceful and quiet, it's simple, I like the serenity, please don't change it. There's not a lot of other things coming through there, so I think there are places you want to spend time, and go the ways, okay, we got this. Yeah. Anyway. So, next month.
We have a lot of reading to do.
We'll have more to share.
A lot of reading to do. But we were very heartened to the both the number of responses and the fact that our townspeople took the time to add the commentary and let us, and give us good food for thought. So I think we can feel really, really good about the information that we got through the process. And I think Cara, who's put a tremendous amount of work into this,
Our pleasure.
shepherding us through the process of getting, the questions, just right and whatever. So we have more on that.
Excellent.
Okay, and weed. So you want to cover weed?
Sure. So with weed, we've kind of had to make some changes and pivots because of, Great Island and not having a partner in terms of helping us share with some of the cost of redoing the area. So we didn't want to not do anything because that land is not being used. We purchased this land many years ago, and it's sitting there and not being fully utilized, and it's probably the site of our best beach in Darien. And so we went back to Dan Biggs and said to him, listen, we want to do something, but we don't have close to $3 million to do it. Can you come back with something where we can kind of renovate that piece of property so that people can see the potential and that we can get started? And so he came back with a budget of just over $1 million, so he was pretty good. And he came up with a good plan, I believe. I mean, have you looked at it online? I think Jim just forwarded it to everybody. But if you look, just a couple of things, he developed a plan so that if we decided later on to add on, and continue with the different phases, that there would be, nothing would be wasted, basically. A lot of the budget is going into doing things like putting utilities underground for near water, grading, reusing drains. I mean, he's really done a great job thinking about it. The beach area is expanded, which is obviously a huge plus. He also kind of continued the berms from the other side of the beach over. And I know that that's not the most popular thing, but I have to tell you that's really kept so much of the beach where it needs to be, which is towards the water side. I think it's been a huge success. He regrades that front part, and it's called the new grass area, and that's almost an acre, which is phenomenal. I mean, to have that much space. The path that goes around will be 8 foot wide, which is wider than Highland, and it's about 2/10 of a mile. So if you went by like 5 times, you would hit your mile, which is great. We did for the wetlands, we did the remediation, but we took out the boardwalk because that was a huge cost for, The other thing that he talked about was the parking lot. I know Lori and I went back and forth about this, that we really wanted to upgrade that parking lot because, every time you drive, you're spitting rocks out. But because of the budget, we're kind of going to keep that to a gravel, like not as thick, not the big ones, but the smaller ones, rocks, I should say.
But it won't be dirt like
It
it
won't
is
be
now.
dirt. Like right now, it's just dirt with occasional big giant rock that, you kind of hit your foot on. So we also had Sandy on the call, which was excellent. He actually talked about maintenance, because this is one of the things that we always talk about. We can't build things if we can't take care of them. We can't accept donations if we can't take care of them. So he said that he could handle the mowing of that grassy area and also the snow removal around that pathway, which he does now with Highland Park. In the winter, I don't know if anybody, I used to walk my dog there in the winter because it was the only place that was already plowed in the morning after a snowstorm. So this would be another great spot for those walks if you need clear roads. So, I mean, I think that he really Dan Biggs did a great job. I mean, I think that it's just, as commission, I guess we need to figure out if we're willing to kind of move this forward. I mean, we know that there's other things going on in town with Great Island and everything, but I really feel like doing a project like this makes the space so much more usable. Would be usable. I mean, we probably want to add some more shade, I think Lori talked about, and a couple, maybe, I would love to see the parking lot redone. I'd love to see the path one day go around the whole beach, but I think it's a great first step for us as commission to put forth and hopefully get some support from the town to do, because I think $1 million for what we're going to be getting for this space would be amazing. I mean, obviously you guys all know I did Weed Beach 1, and this was, where we were headed, towards using more of the space and redeveloping the area. And we didn't have short lane then, so now, it's another huge benefit for the commission to be able to utilize all that land. And hopefully on Sunday, you guys can see in person, it's going to be flat. So one of the downsides is that, yes, we have Tree of Heaven there, but we have other trees there. And in order to make it flat, we're going to have to take out some of those trees. It doesn't make sense, because once you change the grade, you can't preserve some of these trees because they'll be in a well and they're not going to survive anyway. So, but we talked about how this was a good spot that we could put in the trees we want. Well, obviously there won't be any Tree of Heaven on the list, but there'll be other natives, things that we can get maybe a little slightly larger. This might be a place where we get some private money, maybe some clubs, garden club, things like that. There's a lot of potential here. So I'm not nervous about losing the trees. I think having the space be usable for our residents and adding in the trees that we want around the space will be really important.
And more shade trees, maybe?
Yeah, that's exactly, as you know, you're on the land trust, having shade, especially during this summer, the more shade we can have, especially even around the grass areas, it really helps with the, keeping everything moist and, shaded and living, I should say.
Yeah, the grassy area now that the town staff opened up a few years ago is under 1/3 of an acre. Dan said this plan will give that area, it'll be a full acre of grassy area. So, we talk about an area where people can picnic, spread out blankets, throw a frisbee, do whatever to have a full acre of usable space that will connect directly to the beach, which you can't connect directly right now. We can't walk down there if we want to. I think it's just tremendous in terms of really making it feel like one park.
I think it's a great project and an amazing sort of plan. I went through it. My only question is prioritization, which you referred to, of what we need to do. I think Pear Tree needs a lot more help. And we have limited resources. So that's my only concern about taking that on and trying to do something at Pear Tree at the same time. But it's a great project. And it would be beautiful by looking at the design. It's really gorgeous.
Personally, I'd like to ask for both.
We won't get.
I don't know. We've been talking about these for a really long time, really as long as certainly Amy and Susan and I have been on the commission, which is a really long time. And Great Island doesn't replace our beaches. It's not a beach.
It also it's going to take longer for that to come online. I mean, if we're able to get the funding, because when we were going through the capital process, this was in that budget, and they told us come back with some solid numbers, something that our current numbers,
if we can get it, then I'd say we should go for it because it is a great plan. And it will be used, the beach is incredibly used.
Yes.
You know, it's an incredibly used beach, more as just much as Cherry Lawn. So I think it'd be a great asset. I just think Fair Trade needs some help.
But we all know that, and
I spent a
so,
lot of time there this summer. It needs some help.
I mean, you all know me, I will ask.
Yeah.
You know, if we get turned down, we get turned down, but I'm not going to not ask in anticipation of getting turned down. I will ask and I will fight the good fight in terms of championing these because I think that's our responsibility. We've owned this piece of property for 10 years. When Amy and I, remember when we were interviewed for the commission, we were told that the top priority was integrating Short Lane into Wheat Beach. You know, I'm in my third term as is Amy. So, I think it's time.
Looks like a great plan.
I think Dan did a great job because, I mean, honestly, he had to take something that, I mean, that was much bigger and bring it down to this. And also look at what the probable costs are now. I mean, because it keeps on changing. I mean, we've been doing this for a few years now. And now we're at $1 million, you know, we're just doing the bare bones. We asked him for a bare bones budget, and this is what he gave us. And this, honestly, the space is not usable as it is. I mean, you really can't. I mean, it's unsafe. You have that wall that dips into this wall. I mean, it looks, and you know, you must know, I mean, when we went for our tour with Patty, that area is now, because it's neglected, there's so much, I mean, the kids are having parties there, they're doing fires, there's beer cans everywhere. There's been graffiti, they've broken into the sailing trailer there. I mean, it's just like pretty, it's not something that you would expect in this area, that we would have space like that people would do those things.
Short on space.
And it's just not, and it's beautiful. It's one of our, I mean, it's, that stretch of beach is very long, and I mean, you can sit there high tide, low tide. We're able to, you know, we need a bigger space for everybody to spread out and really enjoy that beach. And right now we don't have that. And even though I told you it's an acre, it's actually quite more than that. That's just the space inside the grassy area where that whole path is. He didn't count any of these other green spaces. And so, I mean, honestly, it's probably closer to 2 acres. I mean, it might not be flat, but it's green space that's open, that people can enjoy and have special events at. I mean, you hear, I mean, we're constantly, people used it for, didn't the DTC just have their fundraiser there? You know, the Scouts camp there. I mean, there's so much great use for this space.
There was that ballet performance.
Yeah, the New England Ballet did a tremendous job down there. Yeah,
so.
And that wasn't, you can even see the water, so I kept picturing, wow, this is such a lovely night here, right? With the music and everything, can you imagine if we can then see the water?
It was
It'd be
gorgeous,
nice.
but you couldn't see the water.
Yeah, I bet they have video, by the way, so keep that in mind for when you're going to pitch the powers that be show.
So again, we'll walk it on Sunday, and then I believe the next move would be for the commission to come back and formally, you know, take a vote on whether we believe this is a plan that we should move forward and submit. When we went through the budget process last January, February, whenever I was in front of the selectmen, they basically said, you don't necessarily need to wait till next year's budget, you know, pull this together and then come back and talk to us. It's just that the numbers we had at that point were so stale. Was one of the issues, but then they did say, you know, can you maybe scale it down a little bit?
As I recall from that budget meeting, somebody had asked, how has this proposal been socialized in town? And so is there a thought for how we want to get feedback or socialize it before getting funding?
I mean, we could certainly, as part of the agenda for next month, have a
Period.
Yeah, like a public comment period. Or
Yeah, we talked about that we could do a public hearing because there are neighbors on near water. Dan did a great job actually keeping the landscaping and the trees and the bushes there, so that he was very conscious of that when he was putting the plan together. So that was his first priority, to make sure that we protected the neighbors, which I thought, you know, thank God he's been listening about that. And also, but we also felt like it wouldn't hurt, like we would love to have the public involved and, you know, have them, if they have any other feedback or anything else. A public hearing is more than fine. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, obviously, but I guess with public support, it might have a higher electric rate for success for obvious reasons, right?
Great.
So, but we wanted to put it in front of you guys first, because there is, I mean, you know, we talked to our friends at the RTM, there's a lot of priorities of things that need to be funded in town. We're very conscious of that, but we also know that our job is Parks and Recreation. We don't have to manage the town. We have to look at what's in front of us, and based upon our experience and our history, this is, you know, what we can come up with. And that, you know, if it doesn't go farther than here, as long as we've pushed in that direction, they can make the decision, right, and help us with the process. So, and hopefully we'll have your information for Pear Tree, so we'll have two things to figure out and, you know, consider, which would help a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry. One comment, I'm wondering if it could possibly be either a noise or lighting issue with the neighbors. If there's more events taking place there, could that be a noise issue? And of course, if there's more lighting, then the neighbors might not like that either. Is that an issue that's
Don't think we really have any lighting in this
Yeah, we
plan
had
at
no
all.
lighting.
There's no lighting.
The only thing we talked about was putting the utilities on the ground. I mean, right now, we're using the space without lighting, and doesn't the beach close pretty, like, early?
Beach closes at 10.
I mean, I guess there would be, there could be, but I don't think we've always seen it as a more passive space, not as a, let's put on some, you know, lights for, like, anything more than what it is.
Well, if people had, say, a wedding or something where they're setting up lighting for the special event, the ballet event that we were at, they had to actually stop it because they were losing the light. They had stage lighting, but it was very low. But if we make this so beautiful that people are going to want to schedule events there, I was wondering if lighting might become an issue.
Yeah, we don't have any lighting in the plan.
There's no lighting in this plan.
I think at one point we talked about putting some lights by the boardwalk when it was a bigger plan. And also, we have all those trees that Dan's kept, or we're going to make sure there's protection for the neighbors if anything should come of it. But there's a fair amount of space between the path and the neighbors, so I don't see it as we're not going to put in our own electric, I mean, we just don't have the budget. I mean, it's a huge line item.
No, I just wonder that, I'm just sort of anticipating.
Yeah, no, I know the lights are.
You're going to have people who live in the neighborhood, you know, they're going to have noisy parties going on there, and I mean, I could just.
There's parties going on now that shouldn't be going on.
Right.
If I were the neighbors, that's what I'd be concerned about, because if you've gone down there and seen the detritus from these after-hours parties, you'd be pretty appalled.
Well, how will this stop that? If it's even a better space for parties, what's going to keep those teenagers or whoever?
Well, I'm saying that if we use the space, you can't hide there. Right now, like, the kids are hiding there, drinking and having their fires and everything. And once, you know, you have people of all ages, public using it, they're going to be walking around, really using it, and hopefully the police will have an easier time getting back there because there'll be these pathways and stuff. So I would say more self-policing might happen because the public will be using it. But our intention is not to create another party space, because really the Paddle Hut has that piece, that building where people rent and stuff, but I don't know.
And we have the other picnic grove.
Yeah, and the other picnic grove, but we've only rented it out for picnics and stuff, nothing high level. And I don't see a wedding there.
Yeah, we're not planning to offer that space for like reservations
right now
for groups.
I don't.
We do now.
Oh, you mean like the space? Yes, yeah. But not the middle. Like, we haven't talked about whether we would ever use the middle space. I mean, once a path goes around it, it might limit our ability to do some stuff. We'll see. We'll have to see what the final plan is. If there's an off to the side, like we had at Wheat Beach, we have that other picnic areas that we rent out.
You can, yeah.
But like something that's more central, it'll be hard to kind of keep private, you know.
Short lane space right now, you can.
No. Right by the parking lot, that field. You know what I mean? Right when you drive in.
Tables, yeah. There's been a few people. A lot of times.
We had the kids camp
Yeah,
there.
we
We
used it.
rented it for camping.
Yeah.
And you could do special events there if you want. People rent it for birthday parties.
Well, how does the ballet get in there? I mean, do
Same
they have
thing. That'd be a
annual
rental.
apply, right?
Yep.
And what do they pay for that space? I'm just curious.
I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, they'd have to, whatever the permit fee is for the.
fee.
It's not that expensive.
So I'm just thinking ahead, if, you know, we make this so beautiful, more ballet companies or weddings or, you know, fundraisers or whatever might be there, so then you might have these, you know, neighbors all saying, well, we don't want it to be too beautiful because we don't want a lot of events happening there. I'm
Yeah, no.
just like playing devil's advocate here because I can see this all unfolding in the wrong direction.
Well, we can put rules around that, right? So we can have a structure about who can be there, what time and when they have to shut down, and that's what most places
That's
do.
why the permit process is.
Yeah, and we can work with the neighbors and make sure that they're comfortable with those rules.
My guess is frankly, I think they're gonna think this is an enhancement and be excited about it, and their kids can go play there much more easily. It's a real asset for them.
Yeah, you could bike it, you can roll it, you can walk it. It's going to be accessible to
You
everybody.
can take a stroller.
Anything you want. I mean, you look at Highland, what they've done, and it's going to be wider than Highland. I think, did we say the Highland's at least 4 or 6 feet
Yeah,
wide?
this pathway is
The
wider.
pathways, this one is going to be 8 feet, so it'll be more conducive to having more people using it. So.
Two scooters.
I'm sorry, second?
Two scooters.
Two scooters side by
And
side.
what is the material they're gonna use?
It's going to be asphalt. Because it's the most accessible one and it's easy for Sandy and his crew to maintain because they're gonna have to shovel it, with a snow thrower or something, some kind of equipment. So we wanted to have something that is maintenance free for them to use, because otherwise we did stone dust, you're just, weeding it and putting in stone, stone back in it. So we specifically, that's part of the reason he was on the committee, so that we can make sure that we're addressing those maintenance needs and costs. So that's it.
Any more questions or comments? Good. Okay. Jim?
All right. Just to touch it, I guess a few highlights. This is Pam's report. Also, myself, Cassie, Sandy, all submitted some things for it. The big project right now is up the Cherry Lawn, the tennis courts that are being reconstructed. We hope that they should be finished and playable in November. Unfortunately, the timeline is such that it's going to, hopefully we have a mild winter and can be used a little bit more heavily. They'll come back in May, paint the surface, they'll have temporary lines on it back in May and repaint them. A few other things just to touch on. I think when we get a little, we've already talked on the playgrounds and the invasives. We've added several picnic tables. This is an ARPA funds on the 3rd page of the report. Water fountains are being redone. I was talking to Sandy today over at Tilly. I believe they were took the water fountain out. They're going to be putting a new one in. So that should be going in the next couple of days, I believe. We touched on the playgrounds. A couple things, special events that are coming up next weekend are our movie up at Highland Farm in Encanto. It's a free movie. We are asking people to pre-register for it, but to be honest, we'll be able to take a lot of people at that event. So that's a free event. And then the next afternoon, we have a concert called Rock the Waves with an alternative rock band called Edison. They're out of Norwalk. They're going to be playing at Wheat Beach from 4 to 6. I believe there'll be some food trucks there. So that should be, also we've asked people to pre-register. I think we have around 300 and something people already registered. So that's good. So it should be, I think we're going to have a pretty good event for that. Our fall and winter program registration was off the charts. I was looking at what we did last year. It was 140-something thousand on the first day registration. We did that in 13 minutes on the first day registration. So good thing is a lot of our programs are full. The bad thing is a lot of our programs are full. So we do have some wait lists for some of our programs. We try to add as many programs as we can, and we might be just getting more instructors, which is difficult right now, to say the least. If you go into a store or a restaurant, you see that a lot of places are short-staffed. It doesn't, we're not immune to that. It's, we have some programs where it's just hard to get instructors to teach. But we have tried to add where we can to try to fill some of those gaps. I think we did $233,000 worth of registration on the first day of registration. So it was very busy. A lot of our big programs are tennis lessons, paddle tennis lessons are big, preschool soccer is big, pickleball is big. We do pickleball lessons. So program-wise, I think we're busy. I think Cassie has just started as our recreation supervisor. I believe she'll be at the meeting next month. And she's trying to get her feet wet. She's, learning our programs, has already started to plan for some special events for next year, and is looking forward to hopefully adding a couple of new ones next year as well. So program-wise, I think project-wise and special event-wise, I think it's starting to pick up a little bit, which is nice to see. I think pre-pandemic, we've already doubled our numbers from the number of people participating in our programs. So it's never been busier program-wise. So other than that, if you have any questions, the one thing I know we talked about a little bit before the meeting was the paddle court. I'm in the middle of taking block reservations, so residents can reserve a court for a certain number of weeks or for the whole season. Trying to assign time right now. We had about 50 requests this year, which is the most we've ever had for block time for people to use a court. I think I was able to accommodate, I think it was 46 out of the 50 with time. So that's a good thing. We are funded to put in another paddle court, which isn't supposed to be in the spring, summer of 2024. It's supposed to happen next summer. So we'd be able to have more play next fall. And paddle court started up on Columbus Day, October 10th. So other than that, if anybody has any questions about the report, I try to answer the best I can.
Jim, what are the, you said some of the programs have a waiting list and are maxed out. What are the programs that are hitting capacity?
I think tennis lessons hit capacity very quickly. I think especially the adult tennis lessons, those were filled up pretty quickly. Some of our paddle tennis lessons, just because we just have a limited number of courts that we can offer lessons for. I think those were two of the bigger ones. Off the top of my head, I think those were the two big ones. So.
What new programs did you add this year?
You know what? We didn't actually add a lot of new programs this year, just because we lost our program supervisor and Jamie in April. So for the fall and winter, it was really it was a summer where we were kind of short-staffed. So
you did well without adding anything. Right?
Well, yeah, yeah. I think we have our hands full. So it comes with a lot of new folks signing up for programs. A lot more people in our programs. There are a lot more moving parts and moving things around and questions and concerns and things like that. But yeah, I think once we have Cassie here, we'll be able to add a little bit more different programming for the spring and summer. But for the fall and the winter, more or less, it was, there's some tweaks here for some of the programs, but, it was a similar program to what we did last year, so.
I had a question about the timing on the tennis courts at Cherry Lawn.
Yes.
I believe the high school team uses Cherry Lawn as overflow.
Yep.
So you said the painting is going to be in May.
Yep.
They start in the end of March.
I already met with the athletic director probably about a month ago to tell them they're not going to be able to use the courts in the spring.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That's the boys JV team.
Okay.
So I'm trying to give them as much warning as I can that they're going to have to find an alternative.
Another spot.
Yeah. So.
Can they use Wheat Beach?
They
the
do.
girls tennis, JV tennis team uses Wheat Beach.
They do. The boys use it too sometimes, but not for practicing.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. And with our tennis lessons expanding, the courts are used. I was down there the other day at Wheat Beach, and every tennis court we had two courts of lessons going, and the other full courts. I think it was on Monday morning. I think it was. They're used pretty heavily. So I think they're going to be used. I think I know the pickleball folks.
So what are we doing about striking them for pickleball as well?
I think we can strike them as well from pickleball. Okay. Yeah. So we there would be maybe some overflow from pickleball. But the intent is the courts. It takes about 6 weeks for the concrete to cure, and then they're going to have to put on some temporary lines. We would also put on temporary pickleball lines as well. So, but I think those will be used pretty heavily for tennis as well with new courts because they were in really rough shape, tennis courts. So, but they would come back, unfortunately, back in May to paint to the level that the high school would be able to use them.
Right.
So,
thanks.
Yeah.
Dell, Patty?
I probably should have said that during public comment, but I just want to thank Jim. He shared his wonderful statistics because there's a special appropriation for the RTM on Monday night, which was for Park and Rec, which was really an accounting thing because they blew the socks off of their numbers. And so the programming, so the expenses were, higher, so to fix the books before the end of for the end of last year. So we had to come to the RTM. And Jim gave us some really, just like he just told you, but some wonderful statistics, and it sailed through and it was unanimous, so thank you.
Yeah,
So it worked.
Yeah, so we used to have a few years ago, which a lot of places, a lot of towns have a program account, a revolving account. So when we take in money for programs, we then pay our instructors out of that. A couple of years ago, I think it was decided that we're going to have to budget that, and unfortunately, we budgeted it right before a pandemic, and our numbers shot up, way up through the roof. So our expenditures were, I think it was $560,000, somewhere around that.
Yeah, the budget is 517, and then the extra was
60 something. So I mean, we doubled what we expected. So yeah, I think we're going to go back to the revolving account, which I think most.
I think that's the plan for the fiscal year.
This
we're in
current
now.
one, yes.
Yeah, I was when I was talking to Delia, they said, I thought we did that already, and she said, no, that's for the year that just started.
So we've had to do that 2 years now, where we've had to ask for an additional special appropriation to cover the losses, but the revenue was up. So
exactly. So there was no loss.
No,
it's just an accounting.
Not in reality.
So, but yeah, it'll be easier to not have to do that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and finance will like that.
Well, and I was just going to add that I think any business, you said that we're up 200% since pre-pandemic, am I right?
Yeah.
Any business that can sort of sustain that type of growth over that short period of time without hiccups or complaints, like it's really, I mean, you should feel really great about being able to do that for town. It's not easy to take on that much growth, so great job.
So, ditto on everything, and I'm not gonna rain on the parade.
Rain on it, it's fine.
The one thing that a hiccup is coming is there were multiple parents who couldn't park at Cherry Lawn the other day because there were so many little kids doing little kids soccer. So I think, like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they have the second grade girls doing the soccer, and that's a set plan of number of kids, and that's always been the same. And then maybe the boys do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's been going on for years and years and years with the DSA. But this was a group, and I'm not sure if it was DSA or if it was hired out, but it was much littler ones, and it was packed. And I have photos of people parked all over the place. Really
dangerous.
Public health and safety issues. So I guess my question would be, we should be thinking about caps. And so it's awesome that we're making all of this money. We have to be careful and mindful of how many is too many that it could cause a situation. Or should we be thinking about, okay, maybe Baker is not being used at first thing in the morning, or towards the end of the day, and spreading a little bit of that out. That's all, I'm just throwing it out to you.
What day, do you know what day of the week that was?
I will start taking pictures all the time. That was...
After school, probably.
No, this particular, it's every day. It was packed today, right? It's today, Wednesday, totally packed today. I have pictures of cars parked really uncomfortably with kids running across. I know we've said this before, and respectful of the DSA, that they need to say to the parents, park your car, walk your kid over, don't let them run.
Right.
So what happens is that parents are queuing up here, they're queuing up here. I watched almost an accident between two ladies backing out. But this was on, it was either Saturday or Sunday.
I saw it Friday.
I think it was Saturday because I was at Darien Red Race on Sunday. But I had two different parents who I didn't know. I know them. I don't know them well enough for them normally to come up and say something to me. But they were like, we come to play on the play on the playground, and we can't even get a space there. So again, wonderful that we're doing so well. Just be mindful of caps of the number of kids playing in a certain space, cherry lawn. So maybe it's whether it's spacing it out or sending some of it to Baker or someplace else.
Well, that's definitely, thank you for the feedback. We
Yeah.
had an issue. It's the soccer association. We can talk, because we had an issue here at Town Hall. You know, we had people parking on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
Kids walking across the street. So, and what they ended up doing is they changed their start times and end times. So there's a little bit of a gap in between.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, okay. that's good.
And I get that the guys are standing there, so they don't want to wait too long between when parents are coming and dropping off.
Right.
But it is, that's a concern. And I know we're also getting into the fall, and you're going to lose time and all of that, and we want our kids to be able to play soccer, but we don't want to have any issues. So just as we're thinking about that for fall, next fall, and even in the spring.
Thank you.
And two quick things.
And I love the ninja guys. They're only there once a week on Tuesday, and it's so much fun. Like, that's great.
That's another good one.
Yeah, one, I just wanted to point out the Darien Green Team, met with them, and part of that discussion was getting barrels for the trees, rain barrels. So you might want to incorporate that for they were talking about with invasives, but with new plantings as well. So they were excited about it, and they offered to do it. And I wanted to follow up with you and find out how the lifeguard, how you did with getting lifeguards. I know that was a challenge.
It was definitely a challenge. Yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge next year too. So we're not immune. We were for a while. I think we did well, but I think this year was hard. I think we normally have 23, 24 lifeguards between the beaches, and I think we might have had 17 or 16, and it was, we guarded Pear Tree until I think it was, I have to look at my notes, I think it was definitely the middle of August, and then we had 4 lifeguards left at the end of the summer, because they're either back to school or, one left to go to another town because they paid more. So it's we'll try to do what we can budget-wise to try to make it competitive to other towns. But at the end of the day, I think the pandemic hurt a lot of that with kids that were getting certified, and I think the numbers of kids getting certified for lifeguarding is down compared to what it was 3 years ago. So we're going to see what next year brings. We're going to do whatever we can to try to incentivize, to try to hire full staff. But we won't know until next year where what happens. So,
Right. Did you get complaints because there wasn't coverage?
I don't think we do. I think we to some level, typically every year, we at some point have to only guard one beach, because we have, and other communities do the same thing, that they might have 4 or 5 beaches or pools that they have to guard as well, and they might take their guards off the pools and just guard the beaches. Stanford has done that in the past. Fairfield does the same. They have 5 different beaches. They cut down to 3 near the end of the summer. You have to be certified. You have to be up in the chair. You have to go through the certification course. So we didn't get any complaints about it, but that's the good news. But we definitely want to have a full staff for next summer. So that's the hope.
I have just a really minor question about the Rock the Wave concert.
Yep.
I registered, but I honestly don't know what I registered for. Was it a parking spot?
I think it was.
Number of people? 'Cause
No.
There was no question about it.
I think it was for just trying to get an idea of how many people. We're assuming if you register, we're probably assuming like 3 people a car, something like that. So we're trying to get an idea of about how big of a crowd we're going to have. I think that might be clarified as we get closer to it, but. I think it was just to try to get an idea of how many people were going to be.
And are they going to be requiring a beach pass to go in?
Not if you're going to the concert, no.
And you need to give them like a registration number or confirmation?
I don't believe so. I think it's just a free event. I think they were just trying to send it out just to try to get an idea of what the numbers would be like. So they didn't know if they were going to get 300-400 responses, but I don't think it's going to be anything like that.
Is there a capacity limitation?
There will be. I think the police have been pretty good with any kind of big event that we have down there of finding extra spaces to park people, whether it's, we've had in the past, we've had the source thing, we've had to open up, park people there. We have the overflow lot that we've used as well.
That's really a parking.
Yeah, I don't think we've had, very rarely have had to close the beach, or turn people away from an event down there. So I think we'll be okay for it.
Did you do pre-registration for the movie night, you said?
We did, but it wasn't It actually was less than it was for the concert, I believe. So it's just trying to get an idea of how many people are.
And what day is that again?
That is the concert's on the 1st and the movie's on the 30th. So Friday night for the movie.
September 30th?
Yep, next Friday.
Okay, and what are you, if I may ask, is there going to be lighting or something, portable lighting or anything from a?
I'm not 100% sure. I believe there was some portable lighting for last year's
Okay.
event.
And then I would just recommend that there's neighbors on the perimeter. Communication is key. If you let them know what's going on, when something's coming and
Right.
when it's going to be removed, then everything is great.
Yeah.
It's
I
when
think
it
it was
doesn't
a-
happen, it's when there's a breakdown.
I think it was like one small light tower was used last year for it. So, and the movie starts at 6:45-ish when it's going to be dark by then. So probably by 9 it will be pretty much cleared out.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, are we
I'm
good?
good.
Because more things we gotta handle. All right, so my report, couple of things, and as you know, I participate in the Coastal Commission. We had our meeting last week, I guess it was last week here, and I mentioned earlier in the summer, I think it was reflected in the July minutes, that the CTD had closed down our shellfish beds because some of the contaminant levels were a little bit higher than were considered acceptable. There's been additional testing done. CTD seems to think we're fine now, but they don't have the capacity to continue the testing to formally reopen them. So technically they remain closed. We had a discussion because the state did provide these yellow signs that could be posted. Some of the beds you have to access from the water, so that gets a little bit tricky, maybe putting them on someone's land. But in Pear Tree, we had how to shellfish signs. There are two of them, one by the boat ramp and one by the entrance to the boat club. And so we had some discussion back or forth whether we should really be, adding notices right on those boards to say, the beds are closed at the moment. Because one thing you have to think, here's how you shellfish, but then it's like, but no, technically it's closed. And what the notification requirements are. If you read the signs, it does say, and it says you have to apply for shellfish license, that before you shellfish each time, you really should call this phone number to find out what beds are open or not, and I've tried it myself, and the Darien one kind of said some beds are closed and some are open. I thought it was a little confusing. But we went back and forth, but the conclusion we reached was that for the time being, that those how to shellfish signs would just be removed from the parks, because I had some concern from the commission standpoint that, these signs are in the park promoting shellfishing, and while yes, it does say call this number, I was just a little bit uncomfortable with it.
That was an Eagle Scout project, by the way, so they could probably just pull that.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe they'll remove them, but, I think they can be put back when the time comes.
I think they're just a photocopy of what's available at Town Hall.
Yeah.
I believe that's what he said when he did it.
Yep.
So he just, show it, whatever, and then put it on.
So I wondered that came up. There was an email from Dan Biggs yesterday or today with regard to the application at Connecticut Deep on the Pear Tree project. Connecticut Deep came back with a question that's specific to a float which is attached to an abutting dock, which they believe exceeds the 10 by 10 foot size requirement, and if it does, it would prevent us from dredging. So Tom Bell, who's the former harbor master and he's the current commodore of the boat club, said he would take a look at it this weekend. We just want to get the facts and either whether he'll measure it or whatever, and then we have to figure out, if it is kind of, then what. So, but this this literally was kind of hot off the press today. So, but
I thought the dredging plan was a no-go because we couldn't dump the...
no, it's not a no-go. It will just cost more.
Okay, fair enough. I thought that was paused because we were gonna have to bring the
No.
slush to
No.
New Jersey and...
No, it wasn't paused. It's a fact that we have to understand if we decide to regrade the boat ramp, it's going to increase the cost, and then how much dredging we do.
Excuse me, I'm talking about another area. There was that other area where we couldn't dump the stuff in the sound?
Yeah, that's the material that we would dredge.
Okay.
So the dredging would start at the base of the boat ramp and then go around the docks of the boat club that are closest to Pear Tree Point Road, and then those boats have to go kind of up, they have to go north to go south and out into the harbor.
Yeah.
So the thought was, if you're going to dredge, it's most cost effective to dredge the whole thing, because it does need it.
Right.
But it will increase the cost because the options, you take this gunk, dirt out, you put it on a barge, and then you have to dispose of it somewhere. And if it's clean, you can take it to a dumping site in Eastern Line in the Sound, and you basically dump it off the boat and it sinks.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't meet those requirements, you can't do that.
Right.
So then it has to be trucked away and disposed of in, I don't know, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or wherever, and that's just much more expensive. So we may, once this all comes to fruition, we might either have to pay the extra money or say, well, we're not going to dredge as far along. We'll be involving, I would think, the boat club and, other constituents at that point to determine how we proceed. But we didn't make any decision whether we would or wouldn't. It was just factual that we've now concluded that there is sufficient contaminants
To not be able to put it in the sound.
to not be able to dump it in the
So
Sound.
okay, yeah. I don't think that's what I understood.
No.
I didn't express myself well.
So that is that. So I'm just reading my own notes. So I guess some people have seen it already, but I wanted to report that Jim Cameron had reached out to me a week or two ago. He has been producing a series of interviews with the various commission chairs in town. I think it's called Around Town Hall, or About the Round Town Hall, or something like that. Anyway. And they're about half-an-hour interviews with the commission chair about kind of like, how does your commission run, who's on it, how do they get on it, what do you do, things of that nature. And he reached out to me to do an interview for Parks and Rec, so I did do that with him yesterday. We had about a half-an-hour recorded chat, give or take.
47 minutes.
Oh, was it that long?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it was past an hour.
It was
Okay.
very long.
So it was long. It was fun. I had a nice time talking to Jim. He's just wonderful to speak with. We had a very nice conversation.
You did a good job.
Thank you. So you guys can watch that at your leisure. You can put yourself to sleep about all things Park and Rec, and what our priorities are and what we're working on. Talked about each of the working groups, things of that nature, how we're structured. Made the distinction between the commission, the department, and the committee, and who's responsible for what, things of that nature. So you can all take a look at that. And then he also mentioned that they had an intern this summer who did a few very short, like 30 to 45 second public service announcements, and they're kind of for TV 79, but they may kind of run them between shows or whatever. But they featured Pear Tree, Weed, and Woodland. And they're nice little 30-second snippets of all these, wonderful photographs of our parks. And he sent me the links, and I'll get those out to you guys. And they're just kind of fun to watch. But they really, they showcase the parks very, very nicely.
Where did they get the photos?
They
took
took them.
themselves?
Yeah.
And it's not linked now on the website?
You can find them on Vimeo, but I can send you the links as well to go through that Jim had sent to me. But they're really cute. They're really cute, and they showcase our parks just beautifully.
Have you seen them?
So that was really nice.
On his Instagram, I saw one quick one.
Yeah, they're like 30 seconds. They're not long. So that was that. PSC and Woodland. Just for fun, when I was at Tilly a week or so ago, we were walking along. Oh, what we didn't mention is that Pam was able to get the goose relief guide back, the original guide back. And I went over to check. The geese are gone. The walkways are spotless. It looks great. It looks great. And in the process of doing this, I was with my husband. We walked around the whole thing. We saw a turtle. Wow. This big.
Snapping turtle.
Big snapping turtle.
Where?
Like,
It's huge. He's a second animal.
in Tilly.
No, they're on the sidewalk.
Huge.
Dangerous.
Near the pond.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I
Grass
was
or
like,
sidewalk?
whoa. It was by that little bridge over on the Lake Avenue side. But anyway, it was kind of cool, little scary.
Well, that should help with the geese.
Yeah, so that was fun. So I think that is all I had, because a lot of the other stuff that I've been engaged in over the summer, we've talked about. Now, we do have new business on the agenda, and I think we do need to go into new business. Amy, to talk about Cherry Lawn, would you be willing to make a motion to go into new business?
Oh, I make a motion to go into new business.
Okay, second? Thank you, okay. Hopefully some of you saw, there was email came out, I think day before yesterday, about trees being planted at Cherry Lawn this Saturday, which are a gift from the Pollinator Pathway. They actually applied for a grant through an organization called One Tree Planted, that they've developed a very good working relationship with, and One Tree Planted really loves our Pollinator Pathway. And almost, as Julia was saying, almost keep saying, can we give you more, whatever. So,
just briefly, it's an organization that actually works with corporations to trade carbon. So
carbon credits.
Carbon credits, and so they want to keep planting trees because they got a lot of carbon credits.
Right.
So they're great organizations.
Right. So to get the money though, Juliet the Pollinator Pathway has to put through a formal plan saying we're going to plant trees, we're going to put them here, and this is exactly what we're going to do, and this is how it benefits, the park and our community, etc. Unfortunately, we weren't all aware that this was happening this Saturday, and I know I had some questions, Amy had some questions, Patty had some questions, etc. Really specifically around where exactly are these 30 trees going to go, and Jim was great and got Sandy engaged right away, because some of the proposed areas have irrigation and we have to worry about sprinkler heads, etc. But we all kind of mobilized quickly, and Amy and I and Patty met with Juliet Kane and Sandy Rich, our park supervisor, this afternoon we were there about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, really going over, the planting plan and the location. The trees have been ordered, like they're coming. Well, they're coming. A nice, is it yellow birch, gray birch?
Red bud.
Red bud.
That's the one I always forget.
Red bud. And was there one more? There's one more evergreen.
Oh yeah, there's an evergreen.
And an evergreen. So we want to know where they were going, and also the big question is, how are they going to get watered and maintained? So we talked about that. We don't have a great solution right now, but Patty feels she can mobilize some people, at least in the interim, to
volunteers
to water them until we can come out with a longer term solution. But I did want to mention that we were able to go out today, walk it, talk about good locations for them where we need to avoid, how to group them in little sort of groves or whatever. They're going to be small. I mean, they're like the ones that went in earlier this summer. Maybe this tall or something. They're not.
They're not big trees.
Yeah, they're not big trees. So it'll take a number of years for these trees to come in. But I did just want to mention that because I did get some questions, from folks that, I don't remember the commission talking about this in the past. So.
Do we need help to plant them, or do we have?
Yes. Yes. Anybody who feels so inclined. If you saw that email, there was a link where you can sign up. Certainly, 30 trees is a lot, and then wire has to be put around them to protect them from the critter. So, and that.
They're big critters.
The deer.
It's really the deer.
Yeah, takes some effort as well. So, yes, if you
The
have
only
the
good thing about it
capacity.
is that the deer usually do that in the spring when they're kind of pushing
They're getting
not as
everything.
much.
They're eating everything.
But they're
this year.
eating, yes,
They're
this is a
eating
problem
crazy.
of eating,
But they're eating
yeah.
everything this
Yeah.
year. It doesn't matter.
They're people
They've stripped it.
so that's why I was.
There's just so many of them too, by the way. This is not just the
We're going to call Ellen tomorrow.
Thank
Let's see
you
what
so
we're dealing
much.
with first. I hope she'll give us the contact.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, so I wanted to just let everybody know that a few of us had kind of jumped on it. We're looking for volunteers. If you can come, I realize we have our park tour on Sunday, and this is Saturday morning, so I know that's a lot of.
Did you say there was irrigation that we were trying to avoid with the planting?
Just for the field. just for the field.
So the trees are not being planted anywhere. There's irrigation.
Yes, we had to make sure that nobody digs and
Yeah,
breaks
and so,
the,
and also the irrigation goes.
I asked
sprays
that,
on-
yeah.
The lawn.
On the
yeah.
lawn, and you can't turn the
You
heads.
need, you need drip lines for the trees anyway,
Mm.
if you were.
Did they mark it? Did they use like flags to mark where they're
Yes.
gonna?
yes, yeah, we walked it with Sandy.
So did they, who marked it? Like, did they mark where they're gonna put the trees? or
We marked where we were gonna put the trees, with flags, but then Patty went back with, I think, some spray paint.
Just a teeny tiny dot in case, you know,
The flag
the
gets.
little
Okay.
soccer kids pulled up a flag. So we did that for most of it, and then there was one area that got too deep into where the irrigation, you know, lines could be, and so we just need to, Juliet and whomever needs to reposition it to be along that line, so it doesn't go that, or put it somewhere else, or put it down by the invasives. So,
But I just, you know, Amy and I talked about it, we just want to make sure that everybody's, you know, comfortable with going ahead with this, given that, you know, the real one uncertainty is, you know, the watering and the maintenance, that we haven't really got completely buttoned down yet. But we did want to bring it to everybody's attention that we had, you know, pulled resources together in the last couple of days. And, you know, I think going forward, ideally, we want to have, you know, more advance notice to the commission and really decide. You know, we got some questions, why, you know, why was cherry lawn picked, why not pear tree, why not weed beach or whatever? You know, and we talked to Juliet today, and said, well, you know, maybe could we shift some of these, and she's got, if they were gonna go to the beaches, I would have had to pick different types of trees.
Yeah.
So we just wanted
Projects
to,
that are potentially happening, you would.
Yeah, we don't want to do
Before that.
anything in those places until we set up, you know, especially Pear Tree and Wheat Beach, because we're still have more time to figure those things out. We did those later on, when we did Wheat Beach.
so we just wanna make sure for the future that, you know, the commission is really having more time to kind of weigh in and prioritize where we'd like things. But this was so far along, the trees are coming, you know, there's timing issues with getting them in the ground. This is the ideal planting season that we felt, you know, we really wanted to make this work. But I did want to just bring it to everybody's attention this evening. So I don't know if it's technically new business, but it wasn't an official agenda item, so I thought it was best to do it that way. So, any questions on that?
Can you send us an email when you have that conversation? Just let us get some update. Thanks so much for doing that.
Well, I'm hoping I can actually get the vendor, so I can actually talk to the vendor.
Right. Well, fair enough. It's just comforting to know that you're on it.
Either that, we just chase them down the post road when they're walking.
That's my plan B. Exactly. Hopefully have their number on their trucks.
Yeah, the library does their own. I don't know if you knew that.
The library,
Does their own. They have a guy, the guy that works there does it. And he had mentioned that it's pretty costly to do it with the vendor.
Yeah.
It's that's big, that's
yeah, but the
why.
library's kind of a limited.
No, I mean, that they made a decision to do it, and he has his own tank, that's why he does it. So,
All right, so that is all I had this evening, so I guess we can make a motion to adjourn. Okay, to adjourn, okay. I don't know if we have another question, second? Susan, and then everybody else. All right, thanks, everybody. Nice to meet you.